Hey, James here. Hey, James here. We want to talk about building strong cultures. And in fact, in this video, I am going to walk you through the strongest culture that you can create in your organization, and that is a culture of ownership. So here's the challenge when we talk about culture is that everybody understands the concept, right? Like you could, if I ask you right now, hey, what's the culture of your organization? You might say, well, I feel it's pretty good, or maybe it's toxic, or, there's some good parts, some bad parts. It's such a subjective measure. But if you take a look at how people describe their culture, right? If you were to ask people in your organization, hey, how would you describe our culture here? A lot of words you're going to find are emotion words. It's how they feel about something. Of course, the culture is going to be all the things that we do, but at the end of the day, how do we feel about it? And one of the strongest cultures you can create is a culture of ownership. And so, what do I mean by that? A culture of ownership is where people feel like, number one, that they're owners, and number two, more importantly, that they feel responsible, right? Responsible for their role, their tasks, that there are others depending on them. And so when you have that as a culture, then amazing things happen. You're able to move so quickly as an organization. But the opposite of that, right? When you have a culture where people are not taking ownership, then all sorts of problems come up. So let me walk through this a little bit, because one of the things that happens in an organization where people don't take ownership is that what happens is people get into this mode of every person for themselves, right? That's what happens. It's like every man for himself, every woman for themselves, like every person for themselves. And how does that look? That means I'm going to do my job, but I don't care if you don't get your job done, because I just need to cover my bases. That means when I get my job finished, I'm going to do nothing. Why would I go and help you, right? So this is what happens. Like when we go into an organization where they're having a culture challenge, and there's that everybody's in it for themselves culture. These are some of the things that happen. And so information's not shared. You have silos. In fact, the worst is you have silos of one, right? You have silos of one. And if you have 1,000 people in your organization, you have 1,000 silos. So how does that happen, right? Like, how do we get to this place where people are only there to protect themselves? Well, that happens when they feel like it's not safe and no one else is protecting me. Like, in other words, this is a culture driven by senior management. And if you have a culture where everyone's just in it for themselves and nobody's really taking ownership, the solution to that, right? It might sound simple just to go, well, the solution is everyone to take ownership. Well, yeah, of course. But how do we get there? We get there by the very top of the organization taking responsibility and ownership for where the culture is at. This is such a huge first step, but most executives don't want to make it. And hey, I get it. The times I've led organizations, you're in the trenches, you're working hard, you're trying your hardest. Often the last thing you want to do is go to your people and go, hey, I'm not doing a great job here, and this is on me, and I'm going to take responsibility for that, right? Like, that's not an easy thing to say, especially when you're younger and you're still just trying to figure out, what you stand for as a leader. But I'm telling you, especially for those of you who are listening, if you're a business owner or you're a senior executive at a company, especially a larger company, if you want to create a culture of ownership and you've not had one, the first step is senior management meeting with everyone in the organization and having a conversation where you take ownership where things have been, and then you share how you are determined to change them, and the change starts with you. Now, this isn't a new concept for leaders, but here's the thing. It's one thing to say as an executive, okay, this is on me and we're going to change this, and you send out an email blast to everyone. That's one thing. It's quite another to meet with every single employee in the company And you may not be able to do this face to face, but you can do it in groups. And yes, it's a lot of work, but this is where change begins. It's where you as a leader are able to meet with people. So let's say you're a company of 200-300 people. Okay, great. Then meet with small groups, and it might take you a couple of weeks, but they're going to be short meetings, and you're going to come in and you're going to talk about, hey, as we know, here's where our culture has been. This is on me, and I've let you down, and I'm determined to change that. Here's what I'm doing to change that. I'm not even going to ask anything of you right now because you may not even trust my words right now, but I just want you to know I'm sorry, and things are going to change, and I'm going to make sure they change because I want you to have a great place to work. I want us to win together. And so the conversation goes something like that, depending on, the situation. So if you think about some of the companies in the news right now, like Boeing, I know Boeing's going to have a change of leadership here in the next couple of months. And I'm not going to beat up on Boeing because I'm not a Boeing employee and I'm not in the Boeing leadership. And I don't know what's happened in terms of what's been talked about. But obviously, Boeing's been in the news and they've had some big morale problems because they've had a lot of challenges, right? With even, some people don't even want to admit they work at Boeing right now because the public has a negative perception, at least some public. Those of us who fly sometimes don't think the most highly right now. So the challenge in Boeing when you have a new leadership, right? So let's say a new leader comes in, because that's often what happens, right? We change the leader. So the new leader comes in and the new leader is going to have a new vision and, okay, we're going to fix things and here's where we're going to go. But what's missing when you just have someone come in is that executive to take ownership. Now, maybe the current CEO has done that with everybody, but again, that's a big group. And so if the current CEO hasn't done that, that would be a great thing to do on the way out. But the new CEO coming in, right, as they come in, it's not their fault where Boeing's at, so they can't take ownership. They can only, lead forward. And that's fine as well, but it's not as powerful as a change from within. So remember that. If you're an organization and you're struggling or maybe things aren't going quite how they've been for 2024, then take ownership as the leader and just say, us not being here or us not getting to this level, that's on me. And let them know where you've let them down. Because here's the thing. When people feel like you're genuine and sincere and that you've taken ownership, a lot of the anger that they have for the culture, for the organization, a lot of that melts because people are generally empathic, right? And everyone knows that no one's perfect. So when they see their leader get up and say, hey, this is on me and I'm going to change this and I apologize, that's your ultimate rallying cry for turning something around. And it's the ultimate rally cry for your staff to get behind you. So anyways, hopefully your culture is doing amazing. But if you've had some culture struggles, remember that all major culture change starts with leadership, and it starts with leadership ownership. And as you go through that crucible, it's actually going to pull your firm, your organization out, your not-for-profit, out of that fire, and you're going to be much better in the end. All right, hope that helps. If you would like more information, go to jamesrobbins.com or reach out to us if you would like us to come and take a look at what's going on under the hood in your organization and let you know our suggestions of how you can strengthen your culture to make it one of high performance.